Hello there, and welcome to the Stay Off My Lawn podcast, where we'll have a little fun, lots of laughs, and discussions on the common sense that needs to be applied to a lot of today's world news issues. And now, the disclaimer. Stay Off My Lawn is not intended as legal, medical, or financial advice. Void where prohibited. No purchase necessary to win. Open to legal U.S. residents 18 or older in the contiguous 48 states. Any resemblance to anyone living or deceased is purely coincidental. Actual price may vary. Only use as directed. Not a member of FDIC. And now, here are your hosts, Mike and Richard.
TMI. It's TMI time. Yes. Well, welcome to this week's episode of Stay Off My Lawn. It's May 13th, 2025, and this is episode 117. I'd say that in Spanish, but I have no idea how.
I have no idea either. And now heard in 40 countries.
That's right. And Bulgaria, thankfully, the kind people in Bulgaria keep listening. They were our latest country that has come alongside us. One day we're going to have to list all these countries that listen. Just to fill time, because we're not smart enough. We do.
On a slow news day. Yeah, that's not happened. We were so worried about what are we going to have for content now that the election's over. It's not been a problem.
No. As a matter of fact, we had to get rid of stuff this week. So, I mean, it's just the way it goes. But we really, we're only going to have this segment for about a year because we're going to use up all the content. But
It's time for Stupid Holidays of the Week.
Today is National Apple Pie Day. It's my second favorite kind of pie. You like apple pie?
Yes. Yeah, that's my. I prefer an apple crisp.
Oh yeah,
but I will take a peach anything. I don't care if it's cobbler, if it's a peach crisp, if it's a peach pie. I don't care. Yeah. It's got peaches in it. I'll eat whatever way it fixed.
I'm that way with apples, but it's like with apple pie, I want it to be, you're going to have to nuke it for about 30 seconds and then put a big thing of vanilla ice cream with it. Yeah. I just can't. But my favorite kind of pie is key lime, and I don't know when that day is.
But that's the wife. She likes that and lemon meringue.
Yeah, my mother used to like lemon meringue. Man, I wouldn't clean my shoes with lemon meringue pie. It's just
I don't care for it. I don't like the meringue stuff. Apparently, she does. My grandmother liked it, and she made them homemade, and she treated the wife better than me. Oh wait, that's past issues. I thought I'd already cleared that up. And
my wife is just so much easier to get along with than I am. I think that's a lot of it. So I mean, I don't care. We did start off the week with Sunday being Mother's Day, but it was also National Eat What You Want Day. I don't know if that's
dentures get loose on you.
I mean, they fell out. I put them back in. You didn't even notice. So Eat What You Want Day, I guess, because it was the New Year's resolution diets are probably all gone by now. So it's like, who cares? Yesterday was the National Third Shift Workers Day, which is something I can relate with. I did that for a long, long time. Funny, it landed on a Monday, which was always the worst day of the week for me, basically because Mondays, I would always take Sundays off, and Mondays I went 24 hours without sleep, and I was always in a great mood by the time that was over. So anyway, Wednesday is Dance Like a Chicken Day. Or just Dance Like Mike Tarno Day, which would really be
sorry.
Probably not a good idea if you're getting a sobriety test along the side of the road, but you do you. Because you're going to be put in cuffs.
Not that kind of chicken.
Not that chicken, no. But that would probably be better because maybe the cop would dance with you at that point.
Might make him smile. You never know.
Thursday is National Chocolate Chip Day. Fun fact. I mean, and of course I go down these rabbit holes too quickly, I think, but the Ruth Graves Wakefield, if you ever heard of her, she invented the chocolate chip when she chopped up a chocolate bar and added to her cookie dough back in somewhere in the 30s. The day is kind of vague, but her business that back then was called the Toll House Inn in Whitman, Massachusetts, where we get Toll House cookies.
The Toll House cookie recipe.
Yeah, so that's kind of neat little factoid, and that's free. You don't have to pay us for that at all.
Love chocolate chip cookies.
Oh, me too.
My oldest daughter and I, when she was about 8 or 9, helped me make. We were doing a double batch, and the wife was doing something else, and she came around the corner and she goes, where's the rest of the cookies? You guys were supposed to do a double batch. And my daughter looked at me because she is a horrible liar. It's just not something she can ever do. She just looked at me and I went, we might have over-tested the first batch.
My wife would make, at Christmas time, she would always make snickerdoodles. And it was like, I don't know where she got the recipe, but man, when they come out of the oven, there's a little bit of, they're still a little crispy, but they're really kind of gooey a little bit. And it's like,
yeah, it's perfect.
Oh, exactly. And we would just woof them down, and there was just no, there was hardly anything left. But we used to do the same thing. But I love chocolate chip cookies like you. I just, especially the homemade
fresh out of the oven. Oh, they just don't come any better than that.
Absolutely. Friday this week is National Pizza Party Day. The first pizza was said to predate the Italian pizza as we know it by quite a bit. I think that was somewhere in the 1000 AD time frame, 900 AD. But it's thought that the Persian soldiers cooked flatbread with cheese and dates on their shield back in the 500s BC. So the pizza has been around a long time, or a version of the pizza anyway. A little factoid. Again, it's free, so take it for what it's worth. And finally, Saturday is National Learn to Swim Day. I don't know how that started, but it had something to do with probably a sinking boat or somebody knocking somebody in the pool that shouldn't have done that. So anyway,
I got to remember to thaw out the pizza dough. I like making our own. So
yeah.
Every once in a while. So we've got. I saw we had some pizza dough in the freezer. So I'm going to do that on Friday.
When we first got married, we used to get the Chef Boyardee pizza kit in the box. And it was like, I just remember it being awful, but it's like, we were broke. We ate it. But
you don't have much.
What kind of choice did you have?
Yeah, that's right.
So let me see here. We are going to actually...
Let's go back in time.
We're going to revisit an old segment, which to me is one of my favorite things. Let me see if I can find this now.
Come on, Sherman. Let's go back to the Wayback Machine.
I thought
that's close. I don't know.
No, that sounded pretty good to me. So let me see here. This is...
It's Uncle Joe's Wisdom of the Week.
The projects, the benefits. How do you lead the world without having the best infrastructure? How do you lead the world without having the best healthcare in the world? How do you lead the world without having the best education system in the world? How do you lead the world when you don't have that done?
So I did not mess with that. That was actually what came out of his mouth. They wheeled him out on The View last week. I'm sure that the producers are like going, what were we thinking? So
Joy Behar was sitting next to him just looking at him like, God, please get your thought out. What did she's going, come on, you can do it.
And she's terrible
That's not
about
what
that.
I thought he was going to say at all.
And she can't keep her thoughts together either, but she does better than he does.
The first thing he said, and how do you run with the what? I listened to it like 10 times because I had the clip of it. I don't know what he said.
I think he's criticizing Trump for not having his stuff together, his ducks in a row. I really don't know. No. It doesn't matter.
From somebody whose ducks are wandering all over and swimming in different areas of the pond, I'm guessing he doesn't know what he's talking about there either.
Those ducks had some bad water or something too, because they're like, whoo. Anyway, quick news story, and I've got some thoughts on this. The president yesterday signed an executive order to reduce prescription costs, the non-generic kind. I've got some mixed thoughts on this. At first glance, I was like, this sounds great. Lower costs. It's always a good thing. But at second glance, I'm always against price controls. We've talked about this on the show.
I don't like
before.
I'm right there with you, but I do not like price controls. All it does is lead to shortages about 90% of the time.
Of course. And it de-incentivizes industries to make progress and to make their product even better or whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. Never turns out good one way or the other. Digging a little deeper, drug companies, though, have been charging American consumers up to 4 times what they charge other countries for the exact same drug. This is Moderna, Pfizer, all of them, Johnson & Johnson. And it's sort of like, you got 10 guys together and they're all going down to buy the 10 Chevy Silverados that are on the lot. And the first 5 guys, 10 guys, or 9 guys go up there and they're like, yeah, they're $12,000. Well, that's a great deal. So they buy them. Then you, being the last guy, the American, goes up there and they go, oh yeah, it's $48,000. But because we're Americans, that's the only reason I can think of. They're making tons of profit. I just don't.
Yep.
I don't know.
These huge medical bills are brought to you by Pfizer.
Yes, they are. Oh my! And I learned this from the whole cancer treatment thing. The chemotherapy was, I think it was like $15,000 per treatment, and there was 2 drugs, and of course they had saline with it and Benadryl. They do all that stuff, but what was even more expensive was the immunotherapy after all the other stuff was over, after the surgery, after all the other stuff, and that was $28,000 for an infusion, 1 drug.
Yeah, woof.
It's incredible because actually I think it was, I can't remember, GlaxoSmithKline, I think it was, who made the drug. They sent a note to my oncologist's office, said, well, we need payment first. And they're going, well, you got to talk to the insurance company. They said, no, why don't you just have the patient pay us and then let them get it back from the insurance company.
Good luck with that.
Well, this is before I even knew how much it was. So I said, well, if it was $500 or whatever, I said, I guess I could do that. I go, well, how much is it? She goes, oh, no, you can't afford that. I'm like going, well, how poor do you think I am? She goes, do you have $28,000? I go, you've got to be kidding me. And both of us, all of us were just shocked. I couldn't believe it. It's 20. Yeah. And I had 6
Yes, I am that poor. You are correct.
I had 13 of those infusions, and that's what they wanted me to do.
Wow.
You just got to be kidding me. Anyway, enough of that. The military is changing, and it's for the better, according to Pete Hegseth. Here is an announcement he made last week.
We are leaving wokeness and weakness behind. No more pronouns, no more climate change obsession, no more emergency vaccine mandates, no more dudes in dresses. We're done with that.
Gotta love that guy. Jeez.
Let's not mince words, shall we? No more dudes in dresses. No DDs. Okay, well, good to know.
Well, again, you were talking about an interview that somebody had made, and Nick Freitas had
yes.
responded to that. Tell that story real quick.
Let's see if I can get it right. He had a deal where he was talking about, we're not going to have this. Why don't you want to have people that
men and
are
women
transitioning in the Army and all that? He said, one, for the cost and all this. Plus, it's like, do you want someone to back you up that is mentally has an issue with, well, I don't know if I should or not. It's like, no, you don't want that in the military. So then some clown got back to him and went, and he was also talking about women in sports. It's not the thing to do with having men and women's athletics. And a guy says, they're strong enough to do athletics, but not strong enough for the military. And he goes, no, what I said was that they shouldn't be in women's sports. And also that if we ever fought an all-female war, they might come in handy then. But so
other than that,
that's the general gist. I don't have it word for word, but Nick is just hilarious. His sarcasm is
great.
And then he has his cup that goes, socialism, literally the reason why we can't have anything nice.
Can't have nice things around here. But look him up on social media. I think he's an ex-congressman. Is that correct?
No, he is a representative in Virginia.
Oh, okay.
I think he needs to be in the House of Reps.
I agree. I like him.
The whole thing, because he speaks common sense, and I've seen him do several speeches on the floor, getting up and disagreeing with my colleagues on the left. I'm going, why can't he be in Washington? Because he's in Virginia, so it wouldn't be that far away. Yeah. But he's served his country, and he's a good guy.
Yep, absolutely. And like you said, he spews common sense, which is it's kind of hard to find, even on the right. It's just hard to find. Oh my gosh. We do have, well, let's do this real quick.
Getting done the things I was too inept to do. It's the D.O.G.E report.
So it's a new segment we have now. It's the D.O.G.E report. We have a D.O.G.E update real quick. Stuart Varney from Fox Business tells us what's new. The new things that D.O.G.E has turned up, and here's that.
D.O.G.E has found that immigration gave a work authorization document to illegals just 5 months after they filed for asylum. That document allowed them to work while they waited to hear whether their asylum request had been accepted or denied. So they could work as an illegal, knowing it would take years before their case was heard. The Immigration Department mailed them a Social Security number. No interview, no proof of identity. Just put it in the mail. Here's your number. In 2021, D.O.G.E says 270,000 new aliens were issued Social Security numbers, 590,000 in 2022, 964,000 in 2023, and 2.1 million in 24, right before Biden left office. D.O.G.E also discovered that 1.3 million aliens are now receiving Medicaid. Millions received driver's licenses, some registered to vote, and D.O.G.E says some actually did vote. Try and square that against Democrat claims that Musk is destroying Social Security and cutting Medicaid. He's not destroying. He's weeding out people who don't qualify. Who is really guilty of misinformation in this case? It is not Elon Musk.
Absolutely. Hey, we do have a little bit more of the D.O.G.E report coming up because we're up against the break. So hang in there. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Kendra Rains, and I love these two old guys. That's why I listen to the Stay Off My Lawn podcast. And you should too.
Bud Light presents Real Men of Genius.
Real men of genius.
Today we salute you, Mr. Baseball Designated Hitter.
Mr. Baseball Designated Hitter.
Baseball's an intricate game of skill, strategy, and athleticism. Except for you. You just womp the ball.
Want that ball now.
Our question, what's it like to be a professional baseball player who doesn't even need to own a baseball glove?
Your style.
Still, we'd rather see you at the plate than some pitcher with a career batting average of .001.
Couldn't hit a beach ball.
So crack open an ice-cold Bud Light, sir, on the bench a lot. Because fielding, throwing, and running are overrated anyway.
Mr. Baseball Designated Hitter.
Bud Light Beer, Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
All right, welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 2, and let's see what time this is. I don't know what time it is.
We're so professional.
We are.
We're that way.
Continuing on the kind of the D.O.G.E idea, Trump has said multiple times in the campaign and multiple times. Here's my everything's. I need more denture grip. Multiple times since taking office. And once again, do what?
I said they slipped twice today.
I know.
You're killing me.
Then you get the bubbles under them and stuff. Anyway, Trump said this at a recent rally, and it's you'll see.
We will always protect Medicare and Social Security for our great seniors with no cuts, and we will defend Medicaid for those great people that are in need. House Republicans are working to invest more money in Medicaid than we spend today. The only thing we're going to cut is the corruption and the crooks that take advantage of some of the illegal schemes.
And we've talked about this. We've played so many clips, but the left keeps going back to the narrative that he's just he's going to cut everything, and it's just.
I meant to put that in my box in here, and I forgot. That's what I call my booth, folks.
Oh,
because it's a 4x4 box. Anyway, just got a deal from the AARP paper thing that they sent out. Yeah, I do belong to it.
Yeah,
and again, they're still pushing. Oh, they're going to be cutting. This is how you're going to make. It's like, seriously, again, you put it out.
Yep.
Oh, we're going to protect you from any. There's nothing to protect you from.
No.
If you are illegal, if you are dipping your toes in water that isn't yours. If you're 350 years old for Social Security, yeah, that's where the problem is.
Yeah.
But they are the ones primarily who's been dipping in stuff. So they don't like it. They're getting real cranky with all this stuff that's all their slush funds are being taken away, and they're not happy about it.
But it's easy to make people that are maybe older people, older than us anyway, it's easy to make them afraid. And that's what AARP does. It's like, because they are clearly a leftist organization. They're not really there for you. I mean, we belong to them also, but it's all because the Medicare plan that we have with Barbara requires it. That's the only reason we're members of it. And I think it costs $5 a year or something. It wasn't.
Yeah, it's not. I think you get you can do 5 years for $60 or something. So it might be like 12, and their full thing is close to 20. And you can always find the sale things, but
this.
I really hate seeing, because there are older folks that are in their 80s and late 80s who aren't as sharp and see stuff that there's cuts. Well, I can hardly make my bills now.
And
I mean, that's just nasty to take and scare somebody like that, because they're living on a shoestring, people.
Yeah, exactly. And AARP, just like the news media from the 90s or whatever, you always felt like you could trust what they had to tell you. Of course, today everything is very, very different. But yeah, AARP, that used to be, it wasn't anything political about AARP back in the day, I don't believe.
The lady that's in charge of that's the editor or whatever it is we're fair about. No, you're not. No. Don't give me that. You sound just like the lady that was
the NPR lady, right?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, the NPR. It's like, no, you are 87 or all registered Democrats. That ain't fair and balanced in any way, shape, or form.
No, gosh.
Anyway, but I digress.
Yeah, no, you're right, though. Even CNN's Boris Sanchez, I've seen him a lot lately. He's getting on board for calling out the what I like to call the bull information. They like to use the word misinformation. I'm calling it bull information. This is a squad member and Seattle Representative Pramelia Jayapal. I honestly don't know if I probably butchered that. I apologize.
I'm not much help. Sorry.
But here's how that exchange went.
Look, this is a bill that cuts a minimum of $880 billion from Medicaid, a program that serves 33 million kids across the country. This is a bill that is going to allow the Trump administration to continue to destroy all of the federal agencies, gets rid of the Department of Education. This is, again, sort of green-lighting the mass deportations of U.S. citizens, legal permanent residents, cuts Social Security and Medicare, which Elon Musk called the great big ones that we have to eliminate. This is not a bill that is in any way going to help the American people. If Republicans wanted to put forward a bill that helped the American people, that actually cut costs for Americans, that raised taxes so that the rich finally pay their fair share instead of getting giant tax breaks, then sure, we would be interested in talking about that. But that's not the bill we have before us, Boris. So I think you can expect a wholesale opposition to cutting Medicaid, Social Security, Medicare, the Department of Education, everything that they are doing.
Just to be precise, Congresswoman, I believe that in that soundbite, Elon Musk was talking about fraud in those entitlement programs being the big ones that they have to tackle.
No, that's not.
That's what he said in that soundbite. We can go back and find it, and we'll exchange emails, and you'll see that what he was talking about specifically in that soundbite that I believe you're referring to is fraud. And President Trump has said that he will not sign anything that cuts Medicaid.
See, but I can't believe he called her out. Normally, they're very compliant.
From CNN, I'm shocked. Yeah. What was the other thing that she was saying that just frost my gizzard, gets my goat? what are some of the other? She was just so full of beans. It's like, what the?
I saw what's the House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries talking the other day, and it's like, and it was just lie after lie after lie. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me! But people, he was giving a press conference, and the media was just lapping it up like a scalded dog. What are you doing? I mean, the media just has no credibility at all anymore to me.
No, they're just as bad, and it's the one thing that I never understood growing up. Why was the media in the Nuremberg trials? That made no sense to me at all. I'm going, it's just the media. Okay, now it makes a lot of sense now.
It sure does. It sure does.
Because the propaganda and the stuff they're pushing that is just false lies, and they can't keep up with what Trump's doing. They don't know what he's doing. He has made sure that I'm picking who I want to be in my cabinet and who is with me.
Yeah.
And if somebody is doing something they shouldn't, they're gone. I'll find somebody else.
Yeah, and then we were talking about that off the air. It's like this cabinet that he has is been fantastic, even better than what Reagan put together back in the day. We were talking about that, and it's like, and Mike Waltz, who ended up, and I don't care what they say, he was the sacrificial lamb for the whole Signal Gate thing, but he ended up going over to the UN, being secretary over there. So, in a way, that was all. I think he's even making more money over there. So. I mean, somebody's had a role, I suppose, with all that. But I mean, for the most part, man, it's like you listen to Marco Rubio talk, or Stephen A. Miller or whatever. It's like there's so many people that are just so articulate and so good and smart. I mean, he's really put himself together a dream team.
Yeah, and they're so used to in the leftist media just being able to have their way and have these interviews where it's all one-sided stuff.
Yeah.
And pretty much everybody in the cabinet is very much like Trump, and they just call him out. It's like, no, that's not what it is. And you are trying to push a narrative that's not right.
Yeah.
And they're just getting beat up one side and down the other, which we will have evidence of soon.
Yes, we will. Do you remember the whole USA fencing debacle earlier this year?
Yes.
Female fencer, Stephanie Turner. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. She took a knee rather than face a guy with gender dysphoria and, the whole bull information about all that. Just a creep trying to win medals from a women's tournament again. Anyway, that hasn't necessarily gone away. I didn't know that this guy was going to go, this leader of USA Fencing was going up in front of Congress. Did you know about this before you saw the clip, or?
No, I was not aware that they'd brought him in, but they're going over this stuff of there shouldn't be males that were born that have the different chromosomes than the women should not be there, if you will, along those lines. And they were just going on, well, whatever they tell us they are is what they are. That's not right. But boy, he another arrogant individual, very much like the lovely lady from NPR who thought her didn't stink and she was nothing but roses, and just.
I bet you they combed through his social media and found some of this stuff. Say, we need to bring him in because this could be fun. Brandon Gill from
it is for us anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Brandon Gill from Texas, congressman from Texas. Anyway, he gave proverbial what for to this liberal head of the USA Fencing. Here's how that went.
You think that parents who don't want their daughters competing against men in women's sports are whiny?
No, sir.
You don't? Why did you write that on social media? I've got a picture here where you posted that. You were allegedly responding to a parent who didn't want their daughter being beaten up by men in sports competitions. You said, I'm not going to pull her from the sport and write a whiny email announcing my departure.
Sir, Mr. Congressman Jack had asked me about that, and want to be crystal clear, that was an inappropriate message.
Do you think that they're cowardly?
Sir, no, I don't. I don't at all. And in fact...
Why did you write that on social media?
I regret it, sir. I deleted it shortly after posting, and I certainly don't feel that way anymore. And given a lot of the messages that we receive, and even conversations that I've had...
Do you think that parents who don't want their daughters competing against men in sports should be compared to the Ku Klux Klan?
No, absolutely not. And
why did you do
that? I said
that
in the message, sir.
Why did you do that? That was inappropriate?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you're right. That isn't inappropriate. I'd like to read what you wrote and what you posted on social media.
Sure.
Responding allegedly to a lady who had these concerns. The only wizard that's going to dig you out of the myopic hole you've put yourself and your family in is one of the, quote, grand wizard variety.
inappropriate, sir.
Yikes.
And I acknowledge that I said it, and I will commit to never making a message like that again.
That was in response to a parent, according to you on social media, who had a problem with this. Was this a real email that you were responding to?
It was a real email, sir. I did not respond to it and hit send.
This was a real email. Did an actual parent write this, or did you write this email?
It was written by an actual person claiming to be a parent. They were not a member of our
Were you that actual person?
No, sir.
You were
I was
not that actual person, but you staged this whole interaction.
The response, sir, was not real, and I regret that.
Okay.
So if you're curious what he's talking about there at the end of that email, what a great exchange that was. Brandon Gill, man, I'd love to meet that guy.
We were talking in our promo that he reminds us so much of like a young Columbo. Well, I'm just one more question. That's all. Well, that's not what you said here.
He brought the receipts too. Gotta love it. So if you're curious about why he asked that question about the email, was that you that wrote the email? Was it the reference? He has a reputation of faking emails. Here's Congressman Brian Jack from right here in Georgia asking him specifically about that.
Mr. Layfelt, and I mean this with respect, in your capacity as a representative of USA Fencing, have you ever impersonated a woman?
No, I have not, sir, not to my knowledge.
I ask because I understand you have a history of creating fictitious female personas. In one instance, you impersonated a woman named Dorothy and wrote an email to yourself, which you then published on social media for all your followers to see along with your response. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I do, sir. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to address that. It was a poor attempt at humor. It was unbecoming of me as a leader of this organization to post that as I did. And quite frankly, moving forward, that's not something that's going to happen again. It's unacceptable. And it's not something that should happen with any human-to-human interaction, period.
So
yeah, because you won't do it again because you got caught at it. So you'll have to change your tactics for the next thing you try and do.
And this is not a young guy. This is not a guy in his early 20s that just made bad choices. This guy looks like he's at least in his 40s, if not 50s.
If not early 50s, yeah. If he's just arrogant, all the stuff that he did. And, well, you gave that response, and it won't happen again. That's the third time he said, and it won't happen again, because I got caught twice already.
Yeah. And that's the thing. These lefties, they're so bought into their narrative that it's only about getting caught. If they never get caught, it doesn't matter.
Oh, crap. I wouldn't have said it if I'd have known it was going to get used against me in Congress.
We've got one more clip real quick on this. Congressman Brandon Gill pressed him a little bit more about his extreme opinions, and he didn't seem to back down too far from his idiocy on this one.
I'm just asking you, yes or no. Do you think men should be allowed in women's locker rooms?
I don't have a personal opinion on
You don't have you have a personal opinion on a lot of
amazing.
things, but not on that?
Sure. I mean, a locker room is not really an area where people interact.
So the answer is yes.
I don't
Do you
really
think that men should be allowed to share showers with women in athletic facilities?
I think that showering is a private activity and that it should be private.
And it should be private. There's oftentimes communal showers. Are you okay with men showering with women?
I don't have an opinion on that in the context of USA.
You don't? Interesting. That's an astounding thing to not have an opinion on. I think most normal people have an opinion on that. You think inclusivity presumably is a big part of the fencing community. Is that right?
I would say so, sir. We're a very welcoming community, and I'm proud of that.
Are you welcoming to Trump supporters?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Then why did you, on your Facebook page, from the fencing coach, right? Imagine being one of 71 million people dumb enough to vote re-election for a treasonous clown who's permanently banned from Twitter for inciting an insurrection, you mad MAGA bros.
I acknowledge that I stated that in my personal capacity, sir. However, as chair,
that was from the fencing coach.
I have to acknowledge that 77 million people voted for him in re-election.
That wasn't your personal capacity. That was from your capacity as, quote, the fencing coach online.
Yes, that is my blog, sir. That's my publication, and I acknowledge writing that.
Wow. No, I don't have a problem. No, that we're very welcoming. Well, except if you're a conservative on the right and voted for Trump. But other than that, we're really welcoming.
The 50% of the country.
It's like, well, it says here, you aren't so welcoming.
Mega bros. God. Idiots.
I just love how he just leads them down a path, and they go skipping with him and then go, what? Wait, huh?
Oh my gosh, we're up against a break. When we come back, we're going to hear from CNN interviewing Doug Burgum, and it didn't go for Caitlin Collins, a poor woman. Oh, she's been beat up quite a bit lately.
Anyway,
so hang in there. We'll be right back.
More of the Stay Off My Lawn podcast is coming up.
Hey, Wolfman, I thought cleansing was good for my skin.
It is, but cleansing ain't enough. I've been there, I know. Once those pimples make the scene, you need heavy medicine, Clearasil.
What makes Clearasil so special?
Well, Clearasil not only dries up acne pimples and helps heal them up, it keeps on working 5-6 hours, sopping up that extra skin oil.
How come cleansers don't do all that?
They would if they could. They would if they could.
Clearasil, regular tinted and vanishing formula.
All right, welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 3, and we are a little over halftime. The cheerleaders have left the field, so we are...
the band will no longer be ran over by the wide receiver going into the end zone.
That's right. Even though that's fun to watch. We were talking about Brandon Gill. Is you got to follow him on social media. There's just so many. He's just so good. He's definitely one of our favorite Congress people now. So for sure.
Megyn Kelly was talking about him. That she goes, I just love what he does. They're saying he's the new Republican star. I don't think he's trying to push to be the new Republican star. This is just who he is and how he questions people.
Exactly.
And it's hilarious.
But he's just so smart, and the way he kind of like paints people into a corner before they even realize they're being painted into a corner. It's lovely.
Skipping down the path, and then they make a right turn onto Honesty Lane, and they go on, but how did we, wait a minute.
How did I get here?
Oh, Lord.
Man. Hey,
another smug individual, very, just almost identical to the NPR. It's like, no, we're very balanced and fair. Really? Then why do you have 87 of your staff, which there's only 87 of?
All donate to the Republican Party and
are all registered Democrats.
That's right.
You call that fair and balanced? I don't think so.
Not the Republican Party, but you know what I mean. Yeah, she had that one clip from a TED Talk or whatever from a while back that keeps getting played over and over. We played it on this show a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And where it's like, I think the truth has gotten in the way of getting things done. Do what?
What?
Crazy.
What the hell are you talking about? Yeah,
crazy people. Anyway, the left loves to say that Biden had oil production at a record levels, which was true during his presidency. There was record production of oil, even though the prices were not reflective of that, seemingly. Caitlin Collins tried to pull this out with Secretary of the Interior Doug Burgum, and it kind of blew up in her face. I think she underestimated him. Doug is not a dumb guy. Here's how that went.
Oil production at an all-time high under President Biden. He didn't tout it that often, but Secretary Burgum...
Well, he did because of the permitting that happened under President Trump. I mean, the all-time record oil production under Biden was because of Trump. It was in spite of Biden. I was running a state that was a natural resources state, and we were fighting the federal government. Federal government wasn't even holding the legally required lease sales during the Biden administration. First president since Harry Truman was Biden that didn't hold those lease sales. So for them to take credit, that was all because...
Well, they didn't take credit because it wasn't very popular with their voters. Secretary Burgum...
Affordable electricity is popular with everyone, and America needs to make sure we don't lose the thing. I mean, take a look what's happening in Europe right now with this 60 million people in a brownout blackout. We came very close to that happening in America because the Biden administration policy so dangerously eroded baseload in favor of having unreliable intermittent sources. And so we're just fortunate that we're not where Europe is right now, and we don't want to go there. Germany spent $500 billion to go chase a green path. And they ended up with electricity that cost 3 times as much, and they're producing 20% less.
There you go. She didn't expect all that. I know she didn't.
And he knew that she would butt in if he didn't just keep going with what he had to say. And she just was like, that resting face of hers is not very pleasant. Anyway, and it was a little bit of a furrowed brow resting face.
Yeah. Well, whenever she's outsmarted, she gets that face.
Which is kind of on a regular basis at the moment.
It has been
She's
lately.
used to going and interviewing Democrat folks when they were in power, and she could get away with whatever, and they would happily skip down the path of lies and deception without a problem.
She interviewed Trump, I think, during his first presidency, and they were standing there. I remember the clip, and he says, "You're not a very nice person, are you?" And it's like, ever since then, I think she was on her heels at that point, and she never really recovered. But as far as the whole green attitude that the Biden administration had, I don't know if that was necessarily Joe's idea, because Joe probably had the kind of the old school Democrat, just like old school everybody, drill. We need to get oil prices down. This whole windmill and solar panel thing, I think that was thrust upon Joe and the rest of his people. I don't know. Maybe I'm giving too much credit.
It doesn't work. And then if you go and look at it, you'll see that those humongous windmills that they put up and the just yard after yard after yard of cement that has to go in to support that whole thing that's up in the air. And in 20 years, they're done. And there's nothing recyclable.
You can't
and
recycle.
you got to start all over again.
And then you have to find a place to put those. You're going to have to, dig a hole and throw them in there. Because you're right. You can't burn them. You can't do any of that because they're toxic.
Nope. So this is clean energy. No, it's not.
But that's the thing. That's a misnomer. There's no such thing as clean energy. Not one thing is clean, except for maybe the only thing that comes close is nuclear. Everything else is and the only thing with nuclear, you got all the water that is something you got to get rid of. But anyway.
Well, and the newer nuclear reactors, there's not much of that at all to have to get rid of. Not like the old days where it
big
was
cooling
just
towers and the way that was.
Yeah, it was putting out tons of bad stuff to get rid of. The new ones, not so much.
I mean, as far as spewing stuff in the air, it doesn't get any cleaner than that. So, I mean, you're right. Maybe they could work on getting that to where you could use air instead or whatever, I don't know. But, this whole green energy thing, it's thankfully right now it's all taking a back seat, and maybe it'll come back with future lefty administrations. Who knows? But anyway, for right now,
it is not meant to, the solar energy. Well, what happens when it's cloudy for like 2 and 3 days? And you said you've had rain for what, 5 days straight? Yeah, so if you got a bunch of panels on the roof, it's like you're going, come on. And if you don't have another source, and then they're wanting to blow up the dams where I'm at on the lower Snake River. For one, we need reservoirs because we're in the high desert. And if you don't have those dams,
you have no water.
We ain't got anything that's going to get irrigated. And then for two, you've got it going through, the water's just going through and turning, and they're going, but the fish. Really, the fish. They've got ladders, and the salmon are stronger than they've ever been. They're trying to use old numbers. They're lying about it again as well. And that's not what the Fish and Game are saying. No, there's plenty of fish going up the ladders and making it. They've done everything, and the fish, it didn't take them long to figure out what they need to do. And it's been very successful. They saw there was a problem, and then they fixed it.
Beaver's been making dams for thousands of years, and the fish have figured it out, over time. I mean, it's all about an agenda, and that's just what it's all about. Speaking of agenda, the UK. I wanted to say one more thing about the green energy thing. You saw, I think it was, I don't know, did Charmaine talk about this when we were talking to her a couple of weeks ago about that they were going to be making it to where the sun doesn't shine very much. You're going to like a cloud seeding type thing, and it's like the sun doesn't shine very much in the UK anyway. But they want solar panels for power production. Then they want to block out the sun because none of it makes any sense.
Well, right now they're we get the lovely stripes in the sky where it looks like you could play tic-tac-toe up in there. And it's because it's a contract that was put out that was paid, and so they've got to finish it. Apparently, they can't stop it in the middle of I don't know. It's a whole big deal.
I heard RFK Jr. be asked about that the other day, and he didn't deny that was on purpose. But I mean, as far as what the original intent was, I don't know.
Well, the problem is we have Oregon to the west of us. They do a bunch of it and drift, baby, drift. And then we just have these wispy clouds that are not natural. You can see they're coming across in wave stripes because they'll go up there, fly that, and then that stripe just keeps getting wider. And then pretty soon it's not nice, beautiful blue skies anymore. It gets really old. In California, they've been doing something a little goofy. All of a sudden, rainwater is coming down bright blue. I mean, It goes into stuff and it looks like you put dye in like a dog's water dish outside or whatever it might have been is blue.
Oh my gosh.
So what the hell is in that stuff now? You weren't happy with killing enough people with brought to you by you weren't happy with doing enough of that you're now trying to do it from the air.
That's the thing. I've heard about this contrail. It's been a conspiracy theory since, for 40, 50 years. But it's like, but most of the conspiracy theories end up being true. We'll talk more about that later. But I mean, it's like there's you just got to wonder. You just got to wonder. A lot of people poo-poo that idea. And maybe, and I don't know enough about it to whether it's nefarious or not. I don't know.
Well, I don't know, but my barn cat water dish that I would have out. I didn't do it this winter, but the winter before, when we had snow, it would be black flakes in the water dish.
Oh boy.
It's like where I don't have it. It's not burning something. It's the middle of winter. Yeah, no, it was coming down in the snow. So.
Wow, that's terrible. Terrible. Anyway, the UK news outlet called The Telegraph has a podcast called The Daily Tea. And they were interviewing this Somali-born and former Dutch politician, Ayaan, I'm going to butcher this name.
Good luck with that name.
Ayaan Hirsi Ali. Anyway, they were asking her about the Trump administration and their handling of dismantling the DEI programs of the federal government. I think they got a little surprised at her answer. Here's how that went.
What do you make of what Trump has said about diversity, equity, and inclusion policies? He's basically suggested that they should be scrapped.
They should be scrapped. Yeah. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are three wonderful sounding words that are, in fact, a scheme to do the exact opposite. It's to divide, and it's to create inequality. It's to revive racism, but this time against white people. It's all based on this idea that there's an oppressor and oppressed. It's what I call neo-communism, because the communism before 1989 failed. It was centered around class and economic inequality. But this DEI scheme is based on race and identity politics. And these things are terrible, and we've seen the outcome of that. So for the Trump administration to go out and say, let's get rid of this, I'm very much in favor of that.
I love it. I love it. She sees it for what it is.
And if you heard more of the clip, there was a pretty good silence gap because let's just say the podcast folks were not conservatives.
We got this black girl. Let's ask her about DEI. They're all for DEI. Nope, not this one.
She'll be on our side for the wait. What?
Yeah, I
mean, she was so pleasant in the way that she talked about how it is. It's like, what are you going to do? Get real rambunctious and nasty with her?
And yeah, exactly. You couldn't. Yeah, if you responded like that, you'd look like a real jerk. And I'm sure that they probably wanted to.
It was a good response. It wasn't nasty. It was just matter-of-factly, and this is the reason. And the communists have used this for decades to do what they do with separating out different segments of the population so that they're at war with each other, and they're not going to bother the government because they don't like each other. whatever.
But that's the main tenet of socialism and communism, is to get people separated. And just like she said, back in the 50s, it was all about class warfare. And Bernie still believes in all that, even though he is the upper echelon. He's in the 1%.
He is one of the oligarchs.
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta do the oligarch. You gotta go on this, and you gotta tell people about it, but leave me out of it.
All he's done is teach people what the name oligarch means, or the word oligarch means.
I don't think they still know.
I don't think.
Yes, I've looked it up as well and went, that's kind of what I thought it was, but.
But now it's all about dividing people about race. If you don't follow, and I'm talking to our listeners, the Officer Tatum, Brandon Tatum, he's an ex police officer. I think he's from Texas, and he has talked a lot about DEI, and he's a black guy. But it just seems like whenever he talks about it, people tend to listen because he's a black guy. But he talks about how that's just such a divisive and terrible idea to take the meritocracy out of things and making it all about things that nobody has any control over. It's like if somebody has, longer fingers than the other guy, they should get an advantage over something. It has nothing to do with anything. The color of your skin has nothing to do with anything other than, maybe the amount of sunscreen you have to wear is less. I don't know. It's crazy.
If you're a good person, you're a good person. Yeah. I don't care. Yeah. It really makes no difference.
And I think 90% of the people out there feel that way. You've got some fringe people. I think Democrats and Republicans both, the fringe people that might think differently, but come on now. It's just not as widespread as what people like to say. But hey,
that's what the media wants to say.
Exactly. Hey, we're up against a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about a conspiracy theory that a lot of people have talked about for years. That looks like it's actually true again. It knocked me over with a feather.
Imagine that.
So hang in there. We'll be right back.
I have people, lots of people, practically everyone asks me to say hi to Mike and Richard for them. They're great guys. The greatest, you might say.
Cookies, potato chips, ice cream, candy bars, more potato chips, soda, more soda, and fudge bars. That'll be $63.07.
Let me go get my mom.
If kids made decisions on food, you know what they'd get. That's why you're the parent. To learn how to better plan healthy meals, go to intermountainlive.org. Intermountain Healthcare. Healing for life.
Hi, welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 4. We are almost done. Richard goes
almost time to eat.
Yeah, I got to take my wife somewhere, so I don't get to eat, man.
All right, now we're going to get through this really fast. Now, this is what happened, and you all got to pay attention. This is a theory that, yep, it's done. Let's move it.
All right, that's it. I hope you had fun. Anyway, there is a popular conspiracy theory that, you know how conspiracy theories go lately. I mean, they've all come true. This is...
Yeah, we're about, I think we're up to almost like 95-0.
Yeah, pretty much. This one's been around a while. Barbara and I actually saw a documentary about this. And I think it was on the History Channel or something. And I thought, well, that just seems crazy, but maybe. And now I'm like, okay, that wasn't crazy at all. This has been around for a long time. It said Hitler did not meet his demise like we've all been taught for the last 80 years in history books. And because we have Javier Milei down in Argentina, he's starting to look into all this. Here is... Natalie and Clayton Morris. You might remember Clayton Morris used to be the Fox morning show on the weekends. He used to be one of the hosts on the weekends. I think he did that.
That name really rings a bell. I can't place it. But,
I think he did it for if you saw his picture, you know who this was. But he did it for 8 or 9 years. Now he has this thing called the Redacted Podcast. And he explains some of the details on that conspiracy theory that is most likely true now.
People know this story and who have studied the subject know that Adolf Hitler didn't kill himself in a bunker in Berlin as the Red Army closed in. I think we all know that was a fabricated story, or if you watch the show, you probably understand that. Hitler actually fled Germany weeks before that using a group of underground tunnels that led to an airstrip And that airstrip was flown. He was flown from Berlin out. It took submarines, or multiple submarines that were used, U-boats that were then sent to Argentina. In other words, Hitler lived for nearly 2 decades more in Argentina, along with vast numbers of the Third Reich. Well, now Argentinian President Javier Milei has just ordered the release of all remaining documents on all of those Nazis who fled Germany and moved to Argentina after World War II. Basically, it was almost like a second base of operations in Argentina. If you're not familiar with that, like basically the Third Reich operated out of Argentina and Germany. And many of them, including Adolf Hitler, lived in Argentina well after 1945. Most people know that Hitler lived out his days in Bariloche, Argentina, until he died there in the mid-1960s. Yes, you can read the CIA documents about this. The FBI documents also about sightings of Hitler in this area. They knew about it. Of course they knew about it. It was largely facilitated, I think it's safe to say, by the United States and its allies. Operation Paperclip, anybody? Quid pro quo?
Also, if you look into this, the skull that is held in Russia that was supposedly the remains of Adolf Hitler with a bullet wound in it is female.
Yeah.
So when you look for proof that Hitler did in fact kill himself in the bunker, you are going to find a lot of dead ends.
Yeah. And all you need to read, you can read a great book on this called The Gray Wolf. It's a great book. There's many books written about this now. But yeah, the skull, the fragments, they ran the DNA tests on it. And the Soviets allowed them to do this testing. And even Stalin openly talked about that Hitler lived, that he was not there. So Stalin even knew about it. It's widely known in Argentina, by the way, well known, that Hitler sired 2 children while he lived in Argentina.
Incredible. I mean, I remember when I was in high school, I believe, when we were learning about this, they were talking about that he had syphilis and he was half crazy towards the end of his, and that's one of the reasons why he killed himself. But that was, you would think that narrative, I don't know whether that's changed in school or not. I mean, are they still sticking to that story?
It's been a while since I've been in school, son, so I wouldn't have a clue.
I started high school, Carter was president, so it's been a while for me too. But it's like, I just don't. Yeah, I know you were in during Nixon. Was that high school? Was it Nixon?
High school, yeah. That was Nixon in high school. Yeah. Go back to let's see, Kennedy. I wasnd quite in school, I don't think yet, but yeah.
I started kindergarten in '69, so yeah, I think that was Kennedy was already gone when I was born, so there you go. But yeah, I mean, you got to wonder why this cover up. Why was that? In the documentary that Barbara and I saw, it was about that there's a town, I think it's in the Patagonia region of Argentina, where there's people there that to this day you go in there and everybody speaks German. It's really kind of incredible.
Yeah, it's a little pocket of Germans, and it really hasn't gotten any bigger per se. That's it's like a Bavaria in Argentina.
It's fascinating, and like I said, prior to seeing that documentary, I was not aware of any of this. I never even heard the story. That's why I thought, that's somebody making stuff up, but. Obviously, and if he lived for another 2 decades down there, had kids, that means there's offspring of Hitler still living in Argentina somewhere about my age. And so, I mean, it's really kind of incredible. That would have made him.
Now, I knew that there was this pocket of a bunch of Germans did go to Argentina. That I was familiar with, but and there was always a lot of this. Was it really Hitler that was done? What was going on? And you'd hear little bits and pieces, like you're saying, Stalin knew about it. You'd hear little bits and pieces and you go, no, that can't be, because you're hearing it from a commie, so you're not going to believe him. Well, guess what?
I bet everybody knew about it back then, just nobody talked about it. And
the CIA for sure did.
Yeah. Obviously, there's papers that they can release about it, so it's pretty interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what Mr. Milei comes up with all that. I think we need a rest of the story, though. I think we need a palate cleanser.
It's time for that, and we've gone over a couple others, so it's time to play Paul Harvey.
And this is about a letter to the White House, and you're going to be fascinated. You won't know who this is, so don't even try.
Now, the rest of the story. Let's say you're 13 years old born and reared in another country, looking for a fast $10. Well, you might get a job at a local market making deliveries. You might do chores for neighbors. But would it ever occur to you to write a letter simply requesting 10 Yankee dollars from the President of the United States? Well, it did occur to one 13-year-old boy. In fact, the audacity of that letter was so striking that that letter is retained to this day in our National Archives. The year was 1940. The rest is the rest of the story. In that autumn of 1940, he was a boy of 13 receiving a strict, private, parochial school education. Now, certainly every 13-year-old wants attention. This one wanted prestige. Daily, he pondered his anonymity and a way to get rid of it, a way to become a big shot with his classmates. And then it came to him. In school, he had learned a great deal about the United States of America, the wealthiest, most powerful, most generous nation in the world. What if he could somehow con the President of the United States out of $10? The idea became an obsession. He would have to write a letter of some kind, carefully worded, of course, a letter requesting the money, while dangling a vague promise of something in return. The youngster had studied just enough English to get his subtle point across in writing. He addressed the letter to President Franklin Roosevelt, asking outright for $10, because, quote, I have not seen a $10 bill green American, and I would like to have one of them. Then he went on to hint almost in postscript that his country was rich in iron ore, and he knew where the president might get his hands on some. And the next day that letter was in the mail. Proudly, its young author announced to his friends that President Roosevelt was going to send him some money. His friends laughed. Surely they did not expect an answer from the president, much less a handout. The scoffing of the youngsters sort of shook him awake. What if President Roosevelt just tossed the letter in the wastebasket? He had boasted prematurely. Now he might have to pay for it in ridicule. But the little fellow did receive an answer. He did receive a reply from the president. The response had been written by an embassy counselor on behalf of the President of the United States, quote, the President has directed the embassy to acknowledge, with an expression of appreciation, your letter of November 6, 1940, written on the occasion of his re-election, end quote. No, no $10, but a nice try. And you know something, when that boy brought that letter of recognition to school, the Roman Catholic sisters were sufficiently impressed that they put it on the school bulletin board for a whole week. They did not know that the little lad had tried to hit FDR for a fast $10. Neither could they have guessed that the United States State Department would save that youngster's letter, only to review it with amazement 38 years later. For the 13-year-old boy who was so determined to be important, the 13-year-old boy who so wanted to be somebody in the eyes of his peers, that 13-year-old boy, by this time, yes, I guess it's safe to say, had become important. Fidel Castro. Now you know the rest of the story.
Boy, I had no idea. No idea.
No, both of us just, when I'm going, okay, I know I send you ones and I keep saying, this is a real, I'm going, I had no idea. I was doing some stuff in the kitchen listening to it, and I'm going, that could be Kennedy, I think. Maybe that's what it was.
No, I know it. The thing that gets me is that, he didn't, he was living in Cuba, and he got the address for the White House in 1940. This is, it's just incredible. I mean, he was a smart guy, obviously.
Yeah. And Cuba wasn't communistic at the time.
Not at the time.
Right. That turned out to be, that's what happened
in
the 50s, fault. If you will. That turned out to be his fault in the 50s. Right. And if you've ever seen videos or stuff of what happens in Cuba today, they're still driving 1950s automobiles. And not because they're nostalgic. It's because that's all they have. Yeah. They have guys that have made molds of parts and stuff, and they custom make parts that wear out on these cars that have like over 500,000 miles on them, that they just keep rebuilding the parts for, making it. There are some very talented mechanics there.
Absolutely.
So it's just sad. You go there and it's, I saw one documentary that was not a year or so ago, That it took essentially a whole week, sometimes 2 weeks of salary to buy a hamburger and fries. Half a month's salary for hamburger and fries. That's just wrong.
Yeah, the Russians really propped them up throughout the 60s and through the beginning of Castro's reign over there with the sugar cane and the whole thing. They were trading with Russia quite often. But since the 80s, Russia kind of like backed off. I think it's the 80s.
Yeah.
And
somewhere in through there, and they're because they're not being supported anymore, their economy went in the proverbial porcelain altar.
Absolutely.
They're allowing a little more tourism, and it's right along a beach area, and it's kind of a strip. The rest of the country is in abject poverty. As Winston Churchill said, the only thing that's equal in socialism is everyone ends up equally poor. And all these idiots that we need to, go look around the world. It's exactly what happens. Look at all the cities that are run by the leftists and how just destroyed they've been. It doesn't work. It just flat doesn't work.
It never has.
Nope.
Look at Venezuela.
Not one place. Give me a name of one place that it's worked. Can't show me.
Can't do it. And I have to, I don't do this very often. You need to write this down, I guess, but I have to credit Barack Obama for actually helping the tourism in Cuba. He was one of the facilitators of that strip that you're talking about. And so I have to give him credit for that. That was great we need them we should have them as an ally. It's a very, very good spot for everything. But, you mentioned it, once you get away from that strip, how impoverished everything is. If you've ever been in the Caribbean at all, Barbara and I have taken multiple cruises and stopped in Dominican Republic and Grand Turk and a lot of these other places. Once you get away from the port, it's just abject poverty. I mean, people rain barrels and that's the only source of water they have. And it's just,
and they live in shacks, and it's just sad.
It really is sad.
Just very, very sad.
It's certainly not the,
and they're a very proud people. Some of the best baseball players in the world that managed to get away from Cuba at one time they were all on not NFL, Major League Baseball teams, MLB. They're a good people, hardworking folks. That's not the issue. The issue is they were sold a bill of goods that you pretty soon run out of other people's money, and they run out of Russian money.
And at that time, I could see where they might have kind of gotten taken in by it because nobody really understood communism at that point, not like we do today, that it's a complete failure because, you can wrap that up very nicely, put a nice bow on it, and people might believe what you're saying is true because it sounds okay.
That's the same thing in Venezuela. They were one of the most prosperous cities and countries in South America, and communism came in, and it just abject. You need to have about 4 wheelbarrows of their worthless money to get a loaf of bread.
Yep, absolutely.
Inflation is just stupid.
I think the same kind of thing happened
here.
I think the same kind of thing happened in Zimbabwe. I think they had the hyperinflation. Now it costs like $1 million for a loaf of bread. And it's just incredible stuff. Anyway, we do hope you were somewhat informed and had fun like we did. Don't forget you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Smart Speaker, Rumble, or wherever you find podcasts.
And you'll find us every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on the OracleTalkRadioNetwork.com. Enjoy us on your drive home. Get the apps for Apple and Android, or just go to our good old website of StayOffMyLawn.us for all our past and present episodes.
Wait a minute, here we go.
.us.
I was almost ready.
Oh, you were ready? Oh, I'm
ready.
so sorry.
It's okay. We'll see you next week, folks.
Toodles, folks, thanks again so much for listening. We appreciate all of you. Well, we had fun and hope you did too. The opinions heard here today are not those of anyone other than Mike and Richard. If it made you laugh or go, or even, then we've done our job. Sort of. Well, mostly anyway. And if we made you think about things in a common sense manner, we welcome you to the club. And if it didn't, then just stay off my lawn. See you next time.